Renting a car while traveling can seem like a great idea. You get the freedom to explore at your own pace, you don't have to rely on public transportation, and you can visit remote areas that are difficult to reach by bus or train. But is it actually a good idea for budget travelers? And more importantly, is it actually cheaper than other transportation options? Today, we're going to do a complete budget breakdown of car rentals and help you decide whether renting a car is the right choice for your trip. I've rented cars in many countries, and I'm going to share my honest analysis of the pros and cons. So, if you're wondering whether you should rent a car for your next adventure, you're in the right place. First, let's talk about the cost of renting a car. The daily rental cost varies dramatically depending on the country and the type of car you're renting. In some countries, you can rent a basic economy car for as little as $10 to $15 a day. In other countries, the same car might cost $50 or more per day. So, the first thing you need to do is research the rental prices in the country you're visiting. But the daily rental cost is just the beginning. There are many other costs associated with renting a car that you need to factor into your budget. First, there's fuel. Depending on the size of the car and the distance you're traveling, fuel can be a significant expense. I once rented a car in Iceland, and I was shocked by how much I spent on fuel. The car was expensive to rent, and the fuel was incredibly expensive as well. Then there's insurance. Most rental companies will offer you insurance, and while it's tempting to decline it to save money, I would strongly recommend against it. If you get into an accident or damage the car in any way, you could be liable for thousands of dollars. I always get comprehensive insurance when I rent a car, even though it adds to the cost. It's just not worth the risk. Another cost to consider is parking. In many cities, parking can be incredibly expensive. I once parked a rental car in central London for a day, and it cost me £30. That's more than the daily rental cost of the car itself. So, if you're planning on renting a car in a city, make sure to factor in parking costs. Then there are tolls and road taxes. In many countries, you have to pay tolls to use certain roads or highways. And in some countries, you have to pay a road tax just to drive on the roads. These costs can add up quickly, especially if you're doing a lot of driving. Finally, there's the cost of getting to and from the rental car agency. If the agency is not located at the airport or in the city center, you might have to take a taxi or use public transportation to get there. This can add another $10 to $20 to your overall cost. So, let's do a real-world example. Let's say you're renting a car in Spain for a week. The daily rental cost is $30, so that's $210 for the week. Fuel costs another $50. Insurance costs another $50. Parking costs another $50. Tolls and road taxes cost another $30. And getting to and from the rental agency costs another $20. That's a total of $410 for the week, or about $58 per day. And that's not even including any accidents, breakdowns, or other unexpected expenses that might come up. I once had a flat tire while driving a rental car in Portugal, and the repair cost me $150, which I had to pay out of pocket because I had declined the comprehensive insurance. Now, let's compare that to other transportation options. A week of unlimited public transportation in most Spanish cities costs around $30 to $50. A week of ride-sharing apps might cost around $100 to $150. So, depending on how much driving you do, renting a car might actually be more expensive than other transportation options. However, there are situations where renting a car makes sense. If you're traveling with a group of people, you can split the cost, which makes it much more affordable. If you're visiting remote areas that are difficult to reach by public transportation, renting a car might be your only option. And if you're planning on doing a lot of driving, it might be more convenient than taking multiple buses or trains. So, should you rent a car while traveling? The answer depends on your travel style, your budget, and your destination. If you're traveling solo and you're visiting a city with good public transportation, then renting a car is probably not worth it. But if you're traveling with a group of people or if you're visiting remote areas, then renting a car might be a good option. My advice is to do the math before you make a decision. Calculate the total cost of renting a car, including all the hidden costs, and compare it to the cost of other transportation options. Then, make a decision based on what makes the most sense for your trip. Also, consider the stress factor. Driving in a foreign country can be stressful, especially if you're not used to the local driving customs, or if you're driving on the left side of the road for the first time. You have to deal with unfamiliar road signs, different traffic rules, and potentially aggressive drivers. This stress can take away from the enjoyment of your trip. So, factor in the stress factor when you're making your decision. If you do decide to rent a car, here are a few tips to help you save money. First, book your rental in advance. Booking online is usually cheaper than booking at the rental counter. Second, choose the smallest car that will meet your needs. Smaller cars are cheaper to rent and use less fuel. Third, decline the insurance offered by the rental company and instead use your credit card's rental car insurance or get a separate policy. Fourth, fill up the gas tank before you return the car. Rental companies often charge inflated prices for fuel. And finally, inspect the car carefully before you drive off the lot and make sure any damage is documented. This will protect you from being charged for damage you did not cause. Also, consider renting from a local company rather than a big international chain. Local companies often have lower prices and more flexible terms. And always read the rental agreement carefully before you sign it. Make sure you understand all the terms and conditions, including the cancellation policy and what happens if you damage the car. I hope this video has helped you understand the true cost of renting a car while traveling. Have you ever rented a car while traveling? I would love to hear about your experience in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, do not forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Travel with Mila for more budget travel tips and advice. Until next time, happy travels. Let's talk more about the insurance aspect because it's a big one. The insurance offered by rental companies is often called a collision damage waiver, CDW, or a loss damage waiver, LDW. It's not actually insurance, but a waiver that says the rental company will not hold you responsible for damage to the car. However, it usually comes with a high deductible, which means you're still on the hook for the first few hundred or even $1,000 of damage. To avoid this, you can purchase a separate policy from a third-party provider, which is often much cheaper and has a lower deductible. Or, as I mentioned, you can use a credit card that offers primary rental car insurance. This is a great perk, but you need to make sure you understand the terms and conditions